Open them, okay?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome, everybody, to the Web3 by 3 podcast. This is July 26th. We're going 2 hours early today because one of us is very busy, Mike. Today, we're going to be
Sorry.
talking about how marketing is transformed by blockchain, right? How is Web3 influencing the evolution of the marketing space? This will be helpful to those who are looking for new avenues to grow revenue. The purpose of this show, the Web 3 by 3 podcast, is to bring you the business side of blockchain and how you can benefit in your own business. And so I'm joined, as always, with my lovely co-host, Michelle Peterson-Clark.
Hi, everyone.
And Mike Neubauer.
Hello and welcome, Bolt TV.
Oh, yeah.
Bolt Plus, we're live for the first time on Bolt Plus. So hi to all those people who will be listening on Bolt, which is fantastic.
Can we call them Bolters? Is that happy to be on a new platform? All right. So today we're going to discuss right here how marketing is already being transformed by Web3 tech. This has implications well beyond just this show. I think we can safely say this is the future of business. And so right now there's an article we're pulling from in Cointelegraph. If you could drop that in the chat somehow, Michelle. Marketing is undergoing a transformative shift from Web3 as community comes to the forefront. In Web2 marketing, companies run paid ads forever, and that's how they try to grow revenue. But in Web3 marketing, the focus is really more on building a self-sustaining marketing ecosystem, and that is just a fancy way of saying a community. The creator economy folks will understand that. So for initial conversations, I'm going to turn to our content marketing queen. Michelle, what are your thoughts on this piece out of Cointelegraph?
Well, I actually really loved this post, so much so that I'm going to go and buy her book because I just thought the diagrams were excellent. She explained it really succinctly. You know, like those of us that have known for a really long time, like back in 2010 and 11, I was teaching people who were just getting into Web 2 with their businesses, teaching them about how important community and customer service was to your business. And this is what she talks about in here, how important community is in Web 3 and how building that community, and in actual fact, that community becoming self-sustaining in a sense around your project is really the essence of what Web3 can be for the longevity of projects. And we've certainly seen, haven't we, that there's been those projects that have had a good community around it might not be as active at the moment in the crypto winter, but they have definitely got, their super fans, so to speak, people that have hung around no matter what and despite everything. And so, she talks about how the early days of crypto in 2017, where, on Facebook and that you couldn't put blockchain or the words crypto in an ad on Facebook. So you weren't able to do that to generate business for your token or your NFT project like you would a traditional business. And so they had to think of something differently and to do it differently. And this is how they've done it. They've done it by building communities. And Mike can certainly talk to us, can't he? And we've mentioned it a few times about the Battle Bunnies project and the community behind that. But, that said, it's hard when you're in a crypto winter because I know that there's, someone we know that had an unbelievably massive community, and it's probably 10% now of what it was in terms of the members remaining. And, people have either lost their money because of crypto, or they've got bored, or they've had to move on. And so, keeping it going during the tough times is where, there's a few around. Lazy Lions is one of them. The Battle Bunnies is certainly one of them. There's a few really good communities around that have been able to keep their people interested in them by innovating themselves. We've talked about Pudgy Penguins, haven't we? Where they brought out the toy line, and, they've got trading cards and different things, like those sorts of things. VeeFriends, how they're keeping the community going without necessarily any more concentrating on only the Web3 stuff. And that's kind of how they're going to survive for the next bull run. And that was a very long introduction to that topic, wasn't it?
Let me actually direct this, Mike, as someone who's run several communities. Why is community even important?
Okay, so I was invited to be a part of an X panel yesterday, and I say X because that's the new word for Twitter. An X Spaces panel yesterday where we discussed this. This topic actually came up pretty significantly, and the Battle Bunnies is a great test pilot project because we were featured in Marc Schaefer's book "Belonging to the Brand," which really focuses about community build. But the article really touches on the bridge and the difference between a Web2 application and a Web3 application, and I think it could be easier defined in the sense that Web2 targeted marketing is really focused around a targeted audience, right? You find out what predictive behaviors there are, what kind of algorithms can attract the specific user based around whatever they do on the internet, whether they like a picture, whether they search for things, whatever information that they put into that engine, whether it's Facebook, Google, Yahoo, Bing, any social media platform, that puts them into a bucket. And as a business, you can actually tap into that bucket, pay those platforms in order to provide your brand to that particular audience. Now, that's targeted audience. What Web3 provides is more of a community-based approach to it. So there's a big difference between a targeted audience and a community. Well, what's the difference? Well, a community, yes, it's people that you would target to get your brand and your product in front of somebody that has a like-minded approach to it. But on the flip side, it's also somebody that's rowing in the same direction, in the same boat with you, right? They're pushing that same project forward. Why? Because, there's a mutual benefit to this, right? It's not just one person or one group benefiting, it's everybody's benefiting. And that's really what separates the Web2 and the Web3 world. If you own assets in Web3, you are the owner of those assets. You have the right to determine when you want to flip them and at what price you want to flip it for, versus a Web2 concept where you're just a name on an email list.
That's a great point, Mike. I think that people call it community in the old days, especially when in Web2, it really wasn't a community. It was an audience. That differentiation between audience and community, I don't think big businesses right now understand the real difference. And I think Bud Light provides an example when the community can move your business towards or away from you. And Web3 enables you to move it towards. But then that requires a strategy. Right.
Well, it requires not only a strategy, but it requires the releasing some of the control elements, right? You're not only using these people as potential clients or prospects that you're marketing to. Now you're actually providing them an asset that can actually generate, a positive or a negative flow to the way your business evolves based around them controlling elements of the market. Right. So like we see this with NFT projects and, again, this crypto winter, whatever we want to call it, there are communities that are still thriving, that are growing, that are getting stronger. Battle Bunnies being one of them. And lo and behold, we actually have a mint this afternoon starting our Series 2 contract with that. So, we are rocking and rolling in that. The community is rock solid. And, again, it's a testament to everything that they have brought to the table as part of building that project, and us obviously, trying to cater to that demand. But I mentioned it on the space yesterday, people's attitudes and their personas are magnetic in the Web3 space, right? You're going to attract the right people that you want in your project. And if people come into a project and it doesn't fit them, they leave. Right? They're not targeted on this Facebook ad that they have no need for. They literally get to choose which ones they want to be a part of and which ones they don't.
So Mike, I want to, there's three aspects I believe that make for a community. And this is a big differentiation between the audiences we've seen in Web2 and what Web3 is trying to do. This is just my notes. The three requirements I believe are: one, a charismatic leader, right? There needs to be somebody up front waving the flag that people can say, yes, they are representing what we believe in. Two is a mission. It might just be having fun, right? Battle Bunnies, the Unfan, there are things that it doesn't have to be serious. We're not trying to, world hunger, but there has to be a reason. And three is the sharing of the limelight with the community. Like, the people in your community are the stars. The hero isn't you or your project. It is the community members. I know you illustrate that well, Mike, and Michelle, you write about this. I don't think companies understand that. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think that, we've talked before, haven't we, about, love him or hate him. Gary V, in terms of VFriends, is that visionary, is that one that steps up, is that person that, people people move around and whatever, you know, and there's some other things, you know, Brian Fanzo in the NFT 365 community as an example. So there are those people, but then you also have some of those communities where they might have started out with someone, but then they've transformed, say, into a DAO, and there might be a council or a group of people that are the leaders or that take it into the future. So that's something that Web3 provides that we very rarely see in a Web2 business. Like, you do not see Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, for that matter, handing over to a Twitter DAO or X DAO or a Facebook DAO where the people are then in charge or helping to run it. And that's something that you can see in Web3, and that does attract people as well.
I think they would have a lot of investors to answer to if that was the case.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah.
But from the Web3 perspective, I mean, you know, DAOs and all, like, I mean, it doesn't even have to get that complex and that technical. I mean, just simply being a part of the community. Yes, having somebody that's driving the ship, but having the influence come from the people who are supporting the nucleus of the entire project, that's really all you need. And if people feel welcome, if they feel like their voice is heard, if they feel like they're a part of something, that accomplishes the marketing feat, right? Like, this is what brands want to do all the time. You know, Bud Light, up until X amount of months ago, it was, you know, you work at the mill all day, you come home, you crack a couple, you watch the game, and you go to bed. Now that persona has completely shifted dynamic. And, you know, again, was it the right decision, the wrong decision? That's a whole different discussion. But that's really how you can define who that targeted audience is versus who your community is.
That's a good distinction, Mike. It's not the politics of it. I don't care that you're right or left or whatever. It matters that you alienated your community right there. Like, the problem with Bud Light, as we've discussed before, is they didn't understand who they were talking to, number one, and how they should be speaking with them. So when you talk about, like, the leadership, the vision, whatever, when Elon Musk's saving the world, right? You don't have to like the guy, but they're going to Mars. Great. Whether they get there or not doesn't matter. That's what people believe. They're working for free in many cases. These guys want to work for him, these engineers. In Tesla, they are going to be saving the earth from climate change. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but they believe they are. The community has a reason for existence. And I think that is not always the case for products. Product-driven advertising does not inspire that same dynamic.
It's a difference of being on a stage and talking to people versus being in the crowd and talking with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what we have at our fingertips with this technology right now.
So what do you think companies need to do if you guys had to summarize for a company that's interested in shifting themselves? How do they build a community? What are some thoughts? And this doesn't have to be in order, but general principles that would help them.
But you know, the thing with the Bud Light thing, and I know we have talked about this and not wanting to labor the point, but they took a stand, and then, you know, in the face of the first 50 comments went, oh, hold on, hang on, we made a mistake. Like, you know, Nike with the Kaepernick thing and the kneeling, they went, this is our line, this is where we stand, this is what we're doing, and that's that. And we don't care if you don't like it. I mean, I think half of Bud Light's problem was the fact that they were wishy-washy about it.
Yep.
So I think one of the really important things is, what are your values? What's your vision? Stick with it, because then what you do, and we've talked about this before, haven't we? You bring people with you. You don't have to push your stuff out, because what you do by saying, this is my flag, this is where in the sand I'm standing, and here it is, you bring them along with you, or you draw them to you without having to constantly be trying to throw your message around and out there.
Well, that's what they did, and they failed miserably. They tried to double down on it, and, you know, it was a big slap in the face to everybody that didn't care about the political angle of this. They basically came out and said, we don't want to be this frat boy type brand, and unfortunately, you're pissed beer. That's exactly what you are. So you alienated that type of group, regardless on whatever else took place. Like, you can't just sit there and say that we don't want to cater to that when that is the bulk of your product. And you know what? Like,
look, that happened years before, though, didn't it? Didn't happen yesterday or the day before the ad came out.
Mike, I agree, but Elon Musk with Twitter, and I don't mean X, I mean Twitter. Right? He has decided that the fact that tweeting is a verb is irrelevant. That is not the identity of that brand in his mind going forward.
And
okay, but we just saw this happen with Facebook. We'll get to that story after, but Facebook rebranded themselves too. How many people still call it Facebook?
Rebranding yourself is not the same, is different from alienating your community.
Correct. And I don't disagree. If Bud Light still stuck to those same morals and still sold the same piss beer under a different brand, they wouldn't be selling it because they're not catering it to the right people, right? Like it was so bad, they were actually giving full refund vouchers to pay people to buy the beer. Like that tells you you made a big error in who actually purchases and keeps the lights on.
Now, hold on a second. I want to contextualize this. You're talking from the perspective of making money, and I agree with you. But I think Michelle's point is a little different. What are your values? Bud Light's problem was that they weren't clear on their values. I think, Michelle, you said wishy-washy. Mike, you even agreed with that they didn't stand by it. If they want to be the non-frat boy thing, that's okay, but you got to be okay losing 75% of your client base.
Which clearly they're not okay with.
No. And the thing is, though, too, that who didn't know that the frat boy wasn't their client base before they put this ad out? Like
Mike had no idea. Mike, you were shocked by this.
I mean, it's not like I'm in a fraternity. So, I mean, look, was it a colossal mistake? Yes. I mean, the bottom line will say that. The investor pool will say that, right? Like, I mean, I don't think at any point in this process, whether it's 10 years from now, 15 years from now, people will look back and say that this was a success because they stuck to whatever morals they thought they could.
But hold on. If they were really trying to become the transgender beer of choice, then they didn't.
They failed at that too.
That's my point. Like, you got to decide, but you can't just go by the fact that they didn't make money. Elon Musk is losing money hand over fist, but he is
who is in business to not make money?
Well,
especially as a public company, who is going to invest into that type of business venture?
Generationally speaking, especially in the younger set, they vote with their dollars, not necessarily oftentimes because of who you are and what you believe. That attracts the money. So companies on the other end of that, they are in it to make money, but there also is values, as you said, Michelle. Like that's the piece that's missing from Bud Light.
There's a whole different side of this coin that had to be a check mark that was checked, right? This whole DEI inclusion and all that stuff had to be check marked in order for companies like BlackRock in order to continue to invest into them. Okay. Right. They're not the first company that's done this. Target just went through the same thing. But as a consumer, as somebody who doesn't care about any of that stuff, when you go there and you actually have to be exposed to that and it's thrown in your face, most of the time, people just walk away. They don't care. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They just wanted to drink and piss all night. That's all they wanted to do. But everything else was just noise. And, that noise became a trend, and that trend became actually a persona. It's gotten to the point now where somebody's in a bar drinking a Bud Light. There's a stigmatism that goes with attached to that. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. That is the result of what this branding effort had done. And just segueing it back to everything. It's not. Unfortunately, it's not. But that is the difference between trying to figure out a targeted audience versus understanding who your community is.
So Linda has joined us in the comment section. She's added here, and I agree with her, that small business owners struggle with not having budgets, doing the basics of business, and these conglomerates can't get it right. I think that this speaks to the difficulty of navigating without a community in trying to build your business. Going forward, whether you're Web3 or not, there's an expectation on the part of the consumer that you stand for something and that you are clear in what you're doing. Bud Light failed on every aspect of that, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if they wanted to put that flag in the sand, they needed to cop the flack for it. And a lot of Web3 communities and NFT projects are the same. There are so many of them now that were abandoned by the founders, or they've done rug pulls, or, that they just got tired of the uphill push, because at the moment that's the season that we're in, unfortunately. And so why would your community stick around? Like, why would they back you when you won't back yourself?
Correct. And that presents an interesting opportunity, doesn't it? If you have a business and you run it and you have great success, you have this community that's following you, and you abandon that, all those people are now orphaned. They are still interested in the technology and hungry for a community like that. which means that the companies that are doing it right, that are building now, are very easily attracted to those type of people. There's a sea of people out there right now that are in the Web3 space, not just for the flips or any, they are actual believers in the technology.
Yes.
They love the concept, and they're looking for a home on where they can be heard and where they can feel welcomed.
So this is when you start to see market share get flipped. This is when companies that they lose the ball, right? You don't have your finger on your community. They don't have your back. And so if there is a community that will use that tech, as you say, Mike, and that would mean things like giveaways and tokens and things that could be fun. And there's clearly an identity among themselves of who they are and what they like. That's just waiting to be picked up by a Miller Lite or by some other, Pabst Blue Ribbon. One of these beers is going to tap into that, because guess what? Those folks are still going to drink their beer. They're just not going to drink Bud Light.
Absolutely. But and in actual fact, I'd be thinking, if I was some of those marketing teams in some of those other beers, I'd be running campaigns that says, drink us because we're not Bud Light.
Yes.
So here's the difference. This is drawing on my Wall Street background. What companies tend to do, these large conglomerates in downturns like this, is they buy the competition, right? This is the mergers and acquisition era of the business cycle. However, you don't need to do that. An alienated community is waiting to be picked up and cradled without any of the outlay of cash. All you need to do is speak to them with content. And I think that is a piece here that these companies don't understand. Content marketing, Michelle, you can speak to this one, is still being debated. Does it really work? It's 20 years in. So
I know. Yes, it does. For all those people listening, yes, content marketing does work. In fact,
there's going to be a shifting of market shares, and not just in the beer section. All right. I was going to take us to story number 2.
Okay.
This is coming out of CoinDesk. Money for everyone. So this is a story about a project called WorldCoin. OpenAI, Sam Altman, is collaborating on the creation of a universal basic income token. The concept is that this is a Web3 project to reduce global inequality that will come from AIs taking over jobs. Now, this is not an alarmist article. This is Sam Altman's belief, and the article is discussing how if the dark side of AI is the loss of jobs on a scale that seems like it could be possible, how do these people feed their family? And Altman's response is clearly, we collaborate on the creation of a token that people can use as money. This has so much hair on it, as they say in the Wall Street world. Like from central governments to companies that aren't going to want other people to be paid by some other entity for their employees. Like, the whole concept is interesting. We've never tried universal basic income on a large scale, and it seems like we're about to. Mike, we'll start with you on this one, because this seems closer to the technology world. But what do you think about the concept of a tokenized UBI?
You really want to start with me on this one?
All right, Michelle, let's ease into the process.
That's not fair.
I didn't bring the pillow here. Yeah, Mike, I want to start with you. I think that this is, I can imagine your thoughts on UBI in general, but the concept of trying to do this to a token is interesting.
I think it's an awful idea, and it's going to fail miserably. The concept of UBI just moves the bar up about what people expect. Look, this isn't the first time a new technology emerged and it hasn't created jobs, right? Like, there's other production and other elements of work that are built with the advancement of technology. We've seen this all throughout the industrial era. We've seen this in the tech boom. We've seen this all over the place. The tech is designed to help expedite the timelines, reduce the costs, reduce the risk. A lot of this has to do with human risk. Think about car production lines, right? Like when the production lines became automated, everybody thought they would be out of a job. And for the most part, they sort of were, but that led to a tremendous amount of other job opportunities, both from the tech side of things, both from the selling perspective. It reduced the cost. So now everybody has a car. There's a tremendous opportunity with the advancement of technology. Now, it might not be completely understood at this particular moment, but I would definitely not go down the route of a UBI, particularly a token-based one. Why?
Working,
because,
They're already doing it. They're building it.
I understand that, but doesn't mean that it's going to work. Somebody still has to pull the strings on that. What value does that token have? What's the backing to that token? Which government is going to have their teeth into it? Who taxes it? Who's responsible for giving it out? Anytime an entity of this magnitude gets their hands on it to control it, it dies immediately. So these things are very dangerous when they're in the hands of people that have alternative agendas in place. I really feel that, like, even, you know, that idea has been floated in the US for a while. I mean, again, like, whatever happened to work your ass off and you get what you deserve? You know, that concept still, you know, since caveman days has bared fruit. If you don't kill the elk, you're not going to eat.
So going off the back of this, Mike, I think that if this develops, so I would think they end up building the concept out. Of course, the government's going to want to control it because it's the money printing thing. And then you've got the infrastructure of blockchain for UBI pre-made. That's how I think it could develop. But yes, no company is going to control paying people globally. I think about how
really think in the NFT space, what we saw with all the bad players and the stealing of NFTs, you're going to tell me that somebody's not going to hack in and steal everybody's UBI accounts? Give me a break.
Your money's going to come in the form of an ape.
Yeah.
Michelle, what do you think about this universal basic income? You're on the other side of the pond here, so I'd be curious.
Okay, so fun fact, I started out my career as a third world geographer. And a universal basic income from that perspective is obviously going to change many people's lives. However, one of the things I thought of when I was reading the article was about, well, how does that mean, you know, what does that mean in terms of if you lived in New York as opposed to living in Ethiopia? You know, a universal basic income doesn't have the same value in those two communities, for example. They kind of don't address that. I was waiting for Mike to absolutely spit it about having the retina eyeball technology thing. They want to scan every single person in the world with that. I was actually waiting for Mike to have a heart attack about that, and I'm disappointed, Mike.
No, look, and let's use your Ethiopia and New York example. So
yeah, okay.
I sell forks, okay, and my forks cost $2, and regardless of where in the world it is, and the universal basic income comes in, and you get a check for $5 every month. I know for a fact you have $5. Why wouldn't I raise the price of my forks? Because I know you can afford it now.
Good point.
Do you understand how that raises the bar? That inflates the whole concept. Just because you're giving people money doesn't mean that it adds more value to their lives, because any particular company would then, you know, they know for this is why student loans are out of control here, because they know that it has the backing of government. So what do? You raise the price of tuition. Doesn't matter. The government's going to offset it. It's the same concept. So this is what I mean about them getting their teeth into these types of programs. It's never going to work. In the capitalistic market, you have a supply and you have a demand. If there's more money out there that's chasing fewer goods, the money's worthless.
Right. So
yes, true.
There's about,
but yes, on the retina side of things, completely against that too.
I'm looking at a list off the internet right now. In America, cities that are trialing UBI programs is off the charts. There's got to be 30 of them here, almost every state, which I was not aware of. Mostly they're lower income, the poorer areas are trying it out. The fact that companies are thinking of it, projects are being built, states are trying it. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. As a former Wall Street guy, you can guess my opinion, but I feel like there's a movement, momentum in favor of, all right, let's see if we can get this thing working. But Mike, you're right. The minute free money shows up, quote unquote, prices go up. That's been proven.
Exactly.
But I'm as a I don't know, as a person who likes to think that in some ways there should be less poor people in the world, and that, you know, billionaires have way too much money, but you know, I wouldn't necessarily like to, you know, I would like to see there be a basic income for people that means that they can feed themselves and house themselves, clothe themselves, and educate their kids. You know, I have no problem with that. Absolutely no problem. I don't care where the money comes from. I don't care who gives it to them and all of that kind of stuff. It's so that
if that's look, I don't disagree from like the humanity perspective. Obviously, I want everybody to survive too, but from a practical perspective, would you be willing to just basically open your wallet and give it to every kid in Ethiopia? Or would you be just in favor of everybody doing it? Because there's a big distinction there.
Should
right?
be in favor of you doing it, Mike, and that way we can go party in the Bahamas.
So look, the concept has been attempted over and over and over again, and it falls on its face.
We failed. Yes.
So
yes.
Because
I don't think an economic
element behind it.
There's two factors.
There's still an economic element behind it. There has to be.
There's the economics, and you're right? There's no such thing. Money is merely a representation. People don't understand this. It's not actually paper. Money represents value that you deliver to the marketplace, whatever that means. So that's what money really is. But the other factor beyond economics is the politics. There is a political movement that people believe this will solve problems, even if it won't. And so that's a concern, because I think it was in World War II, was it Winston Churchill who said, you can count on the Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else. Yeah. It's one of those scenarios where they're going to give a go at it and see what happens.
The other thing is, enough will never be enough.
Yeah, but this is what I think. I actually believe rather than wealth equality, it creates wealth disparity, because if you've got a UBI minimum floor that everyone's making, but you, Mike, or Michelle are actual value creators and can get paid to do something else in addition, plus you're getting a UBI, you still end up in the same place where certain people make more money than others. So
yes,
that may not be fair. But
look, we've attempted this several times, and I think it's just called, what is it, communism? This is exactly what the concept is. Everybody's equal. You're going to be a farmer, you're going to be a fireman, and we're going to determine what you get paid. I don't understand why this is we're just trying to resurface and polish up a new wheel, but it's the same wheel.
Technically speaking, communism's definition is that the state owns the means of production. There's no companies.
Somebody's pulling strings here.
Versus
regardless
socialism.
of how we look at it.
I think that I agree. Like, this long term can't work. I think practically speaking, I would not be surprised to see it attempted in the short term on a large scale. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just calling balls and strikes here. Like, there's a movement afoot. People think it's going to fix things. And in that window of time, real value creators will run away with the show. And that ends up in a worse place.
I don't think this is where it ends, Mike, though. I think it's just another iteration of an attempt to try and do it again.
I know. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again with expecting a different result, right?
This time we've got like an
this time we got it. We're so in on it.
And we've got a token.
Oh, perfect. So now everybody's in some database and system so that when they spend more than their UBI, they can shut their account off. Like, this
by the way,
this is a huge problem that's developing right now.
The organization that built and runs ChatGPT's LLM is the one that's going to be running this UBI experiment.
Oh, that's just throw that icing on the cake. There you go.
Just saying. All right, taking us to story 3. Michelle, probably your favorite. Threads daily active users falls by 70%, 70. For those who aren't paying attention, Threads was launched back in July 7th. This is Mark Zuckerberg's challenge to Twitter, which is now X. Threads has lost half its active users since July 7th. It has now seen a 70% decline in daily active usage in that same time. So there's fewer people on it, and those who remain aren't using it as much. Meanwhile, Twitter's daily active usage has remained steady at 200 million users, and the average time on platform for that platform is 30 minutes a day. So, Michelle, we'll start with you on this one. I'm sure you've got some thoughts.
So the biggest problem Threads has right now is there's no API. So none of the automation software can link to it in order to post to Threads at, 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. like you can with, whatever app you use, whether you use Buffer or CoSchedule or Hype Fury or, TweetDeck or whatever.
So hold on, Michelle. I know you're in the marketing world. For those who aren't, that means that every post that you want to put on Threads, the user has to manually type it out every time.
That's correct. So essentially, if you want to put the same post, say, on Twitter and on Threads, you can schedule it on Twitter through your whatever software you're using. But what you would have to do with Threads is you would have to copy and paste. You might have to put it into notes. There's also no desktop version, which means you have to use it on your phone. So the screen is like this big. So you have to cut and paste and copy from, say, the Notes app or something else on your phone, put it into Threads, and then manually post it. So that's the first, and we talked last week and the week before, I think, about friction and barriers to ease of use and, entry. So that in the first instance is its current barrier that I think is creating that. The second thing I think too is that because of that, you have, the hype of, yes, it being the first thing and it being the first week and the first day and the first 2 days and whatever of being on it, like I think I mentioned last week, someone had been like 59 hours for the week on Threads or something, which is completely insane. And obviously, naturally, that was going to drop off. And so, I think that people are doing the checking it in the mornings, checking it in the afternoon. There are still lots of things. You can't directly DM people. There's no follow feed. There's all those sorts of things which they say are coming. So yes, it's dropped. I think that was naturally going to happen. And, I think we could better compare these two maybe a month after their first API comes out, where all of these programs can actually link to it, and then have a look at both of them.
Like, I'm sure you're happy to see Zuckerberg scrape a knee here. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is that I called it the first time we brought this up. All those numbers were hyperinflated. And I will hold you to that comment, Michelle. I would love to see what the interaction and the user percentages increase based around some API, because I do not believe that is their biggest problem. The biggest problem is that it is a Facebook app. Okay. And they have their branded reputation trying to compete with something that already exists. The reason why those numbers were so inflated is because of signups. It was because, most of these phones in some of these different, these different areas of the world, they automatically come with Facebook. So therefore that link, that account is already linked. But a 70% drop in usage, that's Bud Light numbers right there. So look, I have absolutely no hope that this software will rebound. I think this is going to be a trend. This is going to be the CNN plus of the Facebook world, where it lasts 58 minutes and then it's diminished. And again, Elon Musk can change the name of Twitter to whatever the hell he wants to. Bottom line is, it's still attracting people to go to that platform every day.
So my comment is that, for those who don't know, the most active posters on Threads are actually brands and not individuals. You can Google this. And so this is a platform culture issue. You've got the Facebook culture, where is predominantly ad driven. Now on Threads, which is technically, if you couldn't get your ads, the problem with Twitter, quote unquote, from the business owners world, was you couldn't really monetize and advertise. So now you've got an opportunity to do what you did on Facebook in a Threads Twitter environment. It's going to be brand rush, the bum rush the stage, as they say. I think that folks don't want that. People aren't on social media to be advertised at or even crowed about how great their company is. It attracts
two things. Every time one of these new platforms comes out, it attracts two things. One is companies, like you mentioned, and the second are influencers, people who feel like they can monetize based around engagement that they can bring about. But if nobody's engaging either with the companies and their ads or the influencers, they're going to stop investing into the platform.
Right. So every time I click on Threads, I hit the Your Ops Guy advertisement. It kills me.
Well, I guess they're using me for free, because I wouldn't give them a dime.
I think that you're right, Mike. I
there
agree.
Is no advertising, just so people know. There's no advertising on Threads.
I'm making a joke with Mike's company, guys. The truth is that people don't want more of the same. We saw this. If for those who were the early users, I know you guys were on there early, the conversations in Threads among users was, are you guys going to be doing the same type of content on your other platforms here, or should we be exploring new stuff? Meaning the users themselves, who are influencers on platform X, I can't even use that term anymore, now are on platform Y and are thinking, maybe I should explore the other side of myself. People want something new.
And those people that have been really successful on LinkedIn or Twitter, a lot of them are doing a few different things and they're trying it out. But it's hard work when you have to actually open the app on your phone, type up the thing, post it to it, putting in videos, you've got to get them onto your phone or GIFs or, like all of that kind of stuff. It is hard. I disagree with Mike. I think that it will be around. I'm happy to be, told I was silly later. But they don't have to do anything other than roll out the features for this over the next 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. Like they're under no pressure to make money from it. They're under no pressure to, make sure it has all the bells and whistles and shines a light and whatever. They are just,
So expand on that theory for a minute. I mean, if you're going to take the responsibility and saying that, if they fail, you'll get the "I told you so." If there is no engagement now, if they fix an API algorithm that allows creators to post it easier, it's still not attracting anybody, because nobody's on the platform.
Well, Michelle,
so how will that change?
When you can plug it into your automated machinery, which I want to talk about in a second after that, because that's where it's going.
But we're not talking about a content creator. We're talking about a user being exposed to that content. If there's nobody there to absorb the content.
Mike, the content creators are the engine behind all these platforms.
At the moment, yeah.
There's still user engagement. Again, if everybody stops using Facebook today, all of those content creators that are posting on Facebook will fail because the platform will fail. There's nobody to target to.
Define failed, platform failed. Do you mean that there's just no usage?
Nobody is going on to absorb the content, right? I'm paying Facebook money to advertise or put content in a platform. If nobody is there on the other end receiving that content, I'm not going to invest my time or money into putting that content out there, which means the APIs and all of the tools are useless.
The manual.
There's still 13 million people on it, though. Using
13
it daily.
million in the world? That's down 70%. You're going to tell me that companies are going to invest into that?
Europe doesn't have it yet, but they don't want companies to invest in it yet. This is the thing. The thing is, they're not going to do advertising minimally until next year, which means they can spend the next 3 months, 6 months doing the proper things, getting usage back up, because they'll spend a shit ton of money on advertising how now you can do X, Y, and Z, which you couldn't before. People will slowly come back, and that's when you'll start to get normal users adding it from their Instagram.
July 26, 2023. Let's flag this.
I'm going to go on
this
here.
episode.
Michelle, I actually think this is a situation where I personally believe their business model is flawed. I think that Zuckerberg is trying to rebuild what they already did for the past 20 years. Everyone's done it. Like, all these social platforms run the same way. LinkedIn's the most recent example. It's changing. The Web3 world is going to make people understand that you don't need to go and give your data away, that these consumers are taking the user content that those folks aren't being paid for, that the eyeballs all come from the heavy lifting from the creators, people that are funny, people that are educational. That the model of those people become the community and they get rewarded from the growth of that platform. That's the business model of Web3. That's the future of, in general, social. Now, it'll take a while to get there, but ultimately they're building the weaponry for the last war. Like, I don't like what Zuckerberg is doing, and that's not personal. I think whether Musk pulls this off or someone else does, there's going to be a Web3 version, like maybe Mastodon finally gets it together. People know that these content creators should be rewarded. They want to be. People want to be in communities. When Bud Light knows what their people want and don't deliver on it, then bad things happen. I think Zuckerberg is not delivering what people want.
We're building a foundation to recreate the exact same thing that we ran away from.
Yes.
That's what this is. There's no but. They need a token in order to execute that Web3. They will never relinquish that control.
One of the things that they are talking about, though, is that you are able to take your users with you, and none of the Web2 platforms allow you to do that.
And you believe that from Facebook.
Well,
come on. I mean, look, there's an ulterior motive to everything that they do.
They don't need to say it, do they? They didn't need to say it.
Apple doesn't need to say that your shit is secure, but it's not. Everything is private, but it's not. I mean, it's all a marketing play. It's all designed to be a marketing play. Well, they used to be like this, but now they're not. Now they're the good guys. No, they're still the assholes with a different mask on.
I'm surrounded by a-holes.
If you listen to the Prof G podcast from last week, he talks about this is Mark Zuckerberg's one and only opportunity to reinvent himself from the villain that he is to the new whatever that he could become.
Sorry, I was just looking out into the ocean. That ship has sailed. It's way over there.
Tigers don't change their stripes. I'm
not saying I agree or disagree with that.
You're a Zuckerberg fan. I know it.
There are people out there who think there are tipping points, aren't there? Those of us that have read Gladwell's book, there are tipping points, and he's saying if done correctly, and he's not saying he's going to do it correctly, but if done correctly, this could be a tipping point for his reputation. Might take 20 years, but people might look back and say that was when it started.
So I would argue that the chance for him to reform his image, if you will, came with that movie, which really blasted him, and he didn't. So this guy literally runs one of the largest platforms in the world and hasn't been able to change out his image. I mean, this is what more tools do you need? There are people who have built reputations for themselves with much less. I'm not bullish.
His reputation is irrelevant. How does the business thrive? As an investor in Facebook, does this benefit you or does it not? Is it hurtful, or will it when you look at 70% less activity, you're pulling your investment. The company will suffer from that. I don't care about Zuckerberg. He has enough money to last 6 lifetimes. He could provide a UBI to everybody in the world himself.
Do you think that Threads gets shut down, Mike? You think this is the end of Threads?
Is it the end of Threads? Maybe they keep it alive, but it will never compete with something like X or Twitter, whatever the hell we're calling it now. Like, I believe the last time we discussed this was the death of Twitter, just like Web3 or AI was the death of Google. Like, these platforms know how to survive. They just got to stay in their own lanes. Facebook wants to cater to a specific audience. That's fine, but that's a generational audience. That audience will fade itself away. Okay. And that over time, Facebook, they're not going to be able to evolve into something new that's going to be attractive to a younger audience. Facebook will die out over time. It has to.
It's meta, but you're right. They will just become the holding company for whatever the real thing is that's making them their money.
Well, it'll be whatever. And you mentioned it earlier, the mergers and acquisitions, right? Facebook didn't come up with Instagram. They acquired it, right? They saw something in that and they acquired it. It was a means to generate more data.
Is that Kevin Systrom?
I don't know who they bought it from, but they bought it for an absorbently low price based on evaluation. And those guys saw yachts and champagne bottles in their future, so they jumped on it. But that's the point. So do they have enough capital to absorb and acquire? Yes. And maybe they will buy the next greatest thing and they'll put it under that umbrella. But I guarantee you the minute they do that, the reputation of what they bought just went down with it.
But the same reason for why they don't have to use Threads to make money right now, and the fact that they have the resources behind them, if, and I'm saying it's a big if they're actually committed to making Threads an X/Twitter actual competitor longer term, they have the resources to be able to do that. Now, let's not and manpower, people power, all of that
financial
stuff.
Yeah,
but let's not underestimate how much, if these two hate each other, that they will do, that Zuckerberg will want to do this.
Right? Again, their pissing match means nothing to me. Facebook is all about data collection. Understand something. Facebook is all about data. I wrote a 26 blog report on this. That's the point. That's why there's 70% the reduction in activity, because people don't want it. They don't want to be tracked. They don't want to have their information bought and sold, whether it's now or a year and a half from now.
I think it's too early to say that.
Time will tell, but it's going to be a colossal failure. They've tried this before. They stole everything from Snapchat and tried to implement it in Instagram. And their attitude was, well, even though it's patented, come after us. People do not like that in corporations. They do not like that for investment purposes.
Agreed. So we flip to X now. We're going to talk about Twitter.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rolling my eyes.
Michelle, go ahead.
Okay.
You can lead us.
No,
did you get a little bird tattooed on you?
No. I don't know. I just obviously for those, unless you've been living under a rock, you will know that this week, I don't know what day it was. Was it Monday? Was it Friday?
Yep.
Was it the weekend?
I
That
think, yeah,
Twitter is no more. It's now X. The logo's been changed. The little bird's gone, which is really sad because it was cute. And you know, I said on, I think I put a post up on my LinkedIn during the week that said brands will kill for their brand name to become a verb. Hoovering, trampolining, that was a brand name.
Scotch tape. I didn't know that.
Googling is a brand name. People say they're tweeting.
Xerox,
And
Vaseline, Scotch tape.
Xeroxing. Yep. He has just gone, nah, I don't want to do that anymore. That I don't understand. From a marketing perspective, from a brand, from a brand knowledge base, from a people knowing and doing your thing and talking about it just as a general in everyday conversation, like, you know, people paid billions of dollars for that stuff. And, you know, I guess he paid 44 billion to get rid of it. But I don't understand that. That's the bit I don't understand. Have the overall big corporation called X if you want. I don't really care. But why he's got rid of that? He wants it to be called Xing now. Who is going to say that?
It'll catch on.
It reminds me of Bing.
Not with me.
They chose Bing because it was an easy verb word to Bing something.
Binging. Yeah.
That never took.
And that didn't work.
Right.
Because the thing is, what you can't do necessarily is, and goes back to story one, community decided that these brand names would become verbs, not the brands themselves.
You don't get to pick your nickname.
Yeah, my take on this is, who gives a shit? It's his company. He could do whatever he wants with it. That's number one. Number two,
branding lesson here, though, Mike.
He's
agree
got
with
investors, Mike. He does
have investors.
Yes.
He does. It's his company, though, right? It's his entity. He is the primary shareholder. He could do whatever the hell he wants with it. That's number one. Number two, it still has the addiction that people are going to come back to. He can call it dog shit for all anybody cares, and people are still going to be addicted to go back to it. That's the type of platform that he has created with that. So over time, will it create a different verb that's going to be utilized for something? Maybe. But at this point, I disagree with your marketing concept, because since that announcement has been made, that's all anybody's been talking about. So from a marketing perspective, it was genius. It worked out great. Everybody can't stop talking about it. Whether they're pissed, whether they're happy, you know what they do? They go to a Twitter Spaces to complain about Twitter. So whatever it is, it's working. And whether it's driving people there, just generating a conversation, giving this to Mark Zuckerberg and saying, I can change the name of a company too of that magnitude, who knows? Again, who cares? It's the same platform. It still has the same elements of information and the same process to post that same content. Who cares what it's called? Who cares that there's a little bird that's no longer there? These companies do this crap all the time. Do you remember Saturn cars? Where the hell are Saturn cars now? Nobody's crying about that.
Do you guys remember Wall Street, the movie Wall Street? Gordon Gekko?
Yeah.
Blue Star Airlines. So Blue Star Airlines was the company, the fictional company he buys, the corporate raider. He owns the majority of it. This is Michael Douglas's character.
Yeah.
He ended up selling the planes, cashing in the pension, wrecking the company, taking the money. But he was the majority shareholder. You can do that. And so to your point, Mike, Musk is not looking to do that because he doesn't need the money. He's got his vision of what he wants that thing to be, and he's absolutely fine shedding the entire history of Twitter, tweeting, the blue bird, all of that. He's leaving it in the dust, and he doesn't care and he can because he's the majority. Now, the question is really the bet on the man. If you think he can reinvent this thing into whatever he envisions it to be, great. If not, yes, there are investors who are going to get hurt. That's the reality of business.
Out. It's not a part of your community anymore. You have the opportunity to leave.
But it's also the opportunity to build a new community. Now, I'm not saying he will, and obviously this is a very disjointed way to do it, but he's planting a flag that the old way of Twitter and what it represented in his mind is anathema. He wants nothing. Yeah. Right. It's over.
And that's pissing a lot of people off. And frankly, he doesn't care.
But we're in a window of time where he hasn't yet introduced what is Twitter. Like, really, what is X? No one knows. So,
well, I mean, I just feel like it hasn't been communicated, but these changes have happened periodically. Yeah, right. Great. The blue check mark never, it always meant something of significance. Now anybody can get it by, what, spending $8 a month?
$8 a month, baby. You too could be a superstar.
Yeah. If everybody's special, then what the hell does the term special mean? Right. So look, again, I don't know what his plans are. And again, I don't care. I hate the platform. I have nothing to do with the platform. People who live on that platform all day long, maybe they'll be able to look up and see the sun for a change.
I think it's got great relevance to this program and to the future of business. I really do think that this becomes some sort of a Web3 entity. And I don't know that, he hasn't spoken to me lately, Elon Musk, but I feel like with his public comments he believes in the whole PayPal, what's the WeChat model that China has running where it's a pay structure and a social media thing. I don't know what he's doing either, but I actually think this is an interesting opportunity, and I'm bullish on it long term because I believe in the guy. It doesn't mean I think he's normal. I just think business wise, I'm convinced that he knows how to run a business.
So on the Web3 front,
not normal.
Well, that's normal. On the Web3 front, it's a lot easier to integrate a Web3 technology into a platform that has that kind of traction and engagement consistently. And
but
you
maybe
just
technologically, as an ops guy, you'd know this. Like he'd have to start from scratch with a lot of those.
No, he wouldn't.
You don't think?
No way. Absolutely not. He builds an exterior platform that embeds directly into the current system. This is nothing new to Twitter. You're already able to, connect your wallet, change your profile picture to an NFT. Like there are already frameworks in place that can generate that.
But anyway.
And meanwhile, Zuckerberg can't get the stupid API working.
No, there isn't one. There
I
isn't
know.
one. You actually have to write that.
I mean, anyway.
Look, we all know that Threads launched because of what happened that week with Twitter. That is the reason why they did it. Okay. They were not ready. They just saw an opportunity and went, right, we're going. Ready, aim, ready, fire, aim, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they did it when they did it. That's
so it looks like the horse left the gate a little early. Can't put it back in though.
They've said that. They haven't said why, but they have said that it's early.
This is the point in the program. I'll remind listeners that this is in no way, shape, or form intended as investment advice for your own diligence. The purpose of this program is not to be financial. It is to give you guys guidance, understanding, and discussions of the business side of blockchain and how things are developing that we believe here will lead to a Web3 infused marketing world, where, as Mike, as your company says, you turn marketing costs into revenue tools. And I really believe that we're going to start seeing more of that. All these examples we used to start with of Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks doing specialty cards has then morphed into large brands, sneaker deals, Nike, Budweiser, to now it's becoming their dawning understanding of community and the importance of that. We saw with Bud Light. And I think that companies are recognizing, wait a minute, there's a way to make money that's not just advertising and shoving and pitching. And so that's why we here, I think I'm speaking for all of us, believe that the way Web3's technology enables these new tools is the way business will fall in line because there's money there. This isn't about technology and a better culture. It's about they can make money. And that's how businesses work. I think that the thing we need to keep an eye on is which companies will build a community properly and which will pretend like Bud Light and not get it right. We talked about the charismatic leader and having the values, Michelle, and I think that that's going to be what separates the winners from the losers in this new Web3 marketing world that we're starting to enter. Is Web3 here yet? Not yet, but I really think that we're getting close. Final thoughts from you two. Michelle, we'll start with you.
We're certainly getting closer. And underestimating the value of community in this space is the death of your project. So don't.
Mike, what do you think? Final thoughts.
I don't think there will ever be a one way or another attitude, right? I mean, we still see billboards up, right? Like they're not all going to funnel into a Web3 model. But I think that the ones that do also have to understand that they need to relinquish some control on their product and the way that it's, I guess, attracted to the branding message of it. McDonald's, I think, just ran this whole concept with the Grimace shake, right? Like they had this whole trend where, people were drinking it and dying and pretending they were they didn't plan that. They didn't care, but it worked. And they just kind of stepped back and now they sold more Frosties than ever in history. The market and the consumer are going to dictate the way the brand is represented, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. At the end, there still needs to be a bottom line revenue stream. But I think that if companies are eligible and taking the risk of relinquishing some of that power and giving that to the consumer in the form of a Web3, for example, that's going to lead to bigger and better things for the brand over time. Because now everybody's rowing in the same direction. They're not being talked to, they're being talked with.
I want to know how much money McDonald's made from this Grimace Shake virality. If you guys haven't seen this, it's hilarious. But yeah, that's exactly right, Mike. The bottom line is you don't always have control of your community, but it is about community.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. As always, every week we're here, the Web 3x3 podcast. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We are every week on Wednesdays, usually 4 p.m. Eastern. This week we went early because some of us are launching projects. Mike, do you want to say any comments about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a holder-only mint. If you hold a Spartan in the Battle Bunnies, or if you hold 2 Invasion Squirrels, you'll have an opportunity to mint. But we're breaking down some barriers with the way that those tokens are represented. We have some really cool interactive art that you can interact with on chain with it. So we're running a few different, test pilots on it, but it seems to be very, very well received. And it's, it changes the dynamic on how things can potentially work from a business perspective in sponsorships and advertising and, just keeping NFTs as sort of like a photo album of different pieces of art that you could, that you can generate with. So we're excited about that.
A battle bunny in the comments.
Yeah, you're doing you guys are doing an amazing job with the battle bunnies. It's a fantastic project. Everyone needs to check it out.
Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's going to be fun to watch. Everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next Wednesday, the Web 3x3 podcast. Please give us a follow if you found any value at all. We appreciate your attention. Have a good one, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.